So today we're going to make a children's monster mask. A lot of countries I know are coming out of lockdown now, so this is the stage where you need the mask most. And I thought it'd be really nice for children to have some fun actually getting involved in making their own masks, and hopefully that will make them a lot more fun to wear. So what you're going to need today is an old t-shirt, some scraps of fabric, just any old offcuts, whatever you've got, and some scissors, preferably fabric scissors, a needle and thread, some buttons, these are optional but they're a nice touch, and a ruler. Okay, let's get started. So we're going to make the basic mask out of t-shirt fabric. This is really handy for a few reasons. One is that it doesn't tend to fray nearly as much as most fabric, and the other is obviously it's got a nice stretch to it, which makes it just really easy to wear, really comfortable. So for a child up to about the age of 9 or 10, I'd recommend starting with a rectangle approximately 20 centimetres. I'm just going to measure that out, by 12 centimetres. I'm going to use the hem of the t-shirt as the bit that goes across the nose. You don't really have to do this, but I think as we have one nice neat edge we may as well use it. So I'm going to go 12 centimetres up from there. You might need to draw more of a line or put some more dots in just to help you connect it up. Okay. I think that will do. Now this might look a bit wide, but this includes a seam allowance, so I'm going to be folding over both edges. With that in mind, you might just want to check this against your face or the face of the child it's intended for. Just fold over just over a centimetre on each side and see whether that looks about right. It's going to kind of bunch up a little bit more as well. Okay, so before you get rid of your t-shirts, you need to cut out your ties as well. So the strings, the elastic that goes around your head, we're going to make out of the t-shirt fabric as well. So for an adult, a teenage adult mask, I'd recommend kind of going from the bottom of the t-shirt up to the bottom of the sleeve. Obviously for a children's mask you wouldn't need it to be this long at all, but you may as well start a bit big. You might need more like 30 centimetres, so the whole of your ruler, but there's no harm in starting a bit bigger and then trimming down. So I'm just going to make them about 2 centimetres wide. Just going to kind of do it by eye really, 1.5 to 2 centimetres. So as you can see, even if the edges are a little bit scruffy, it doesn't matter at all, because it's going to just kind of curl up on itself and make a really nice stretchy tie. You might want to take a moment to just check the mask against your face, make sure that this bit kind of covers the top ridge of your nose, comes down under your eyes, and this bit should tuck under your chin. Okay, so now I'm going to thread the needle. I'm using orange thread because it's a nice contrast, and because I can't find any blue thread right now. It's all good. I'm going to try and make a virtue out of that. I think it could actually look quite nice to be able to see the stitching. Okay. So pull your thread through. I always do a double up, so two layers of threads. And I tend to do it about as long as from my hand to my elbow. Just crouch down so you can see that. Because any longer and it gets really hard to work with. But at least this way I've got a good amount to be working with. Okay. Tie a double knot in the end. And then you can just trim off the excess. Okay, so I'm going to take one of my ties. Don't really want that hem bit in there. And just fold over like so. And then I'm going to stitch along here. You may prefer to do this stitch with a machine if you've got one, with a sewing machine, or in any case without your tie in, and then feed your tie through, poke it through with a skewer or something. I find it totally fine to do it this way, and I wanted to show you making the whole thing without using the sewing machine. And you can just do a really simple running stitch, so the simplest form of stitching. So I'm just feeling where the tie is. I'm trying to avoid it, it's down this edge so it's fine, so I can really feel where the fabric is a double layer rather than a triple or quadruple layer, so it's actually easy enough. The nice thing about a running stitch is you can go in and out a few times like that to make your life a bit easier. you finish off the line of stitching with a knot. So what I do is I just poke the needle back through the loop, so instead of pulling it tight, and that creates a little knot to finish it off. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same on the other side. Just remember to keep checking that you're not catching the tie with your stitches. Finish off as before with a little knot. And that's your basic mask. Doesn't look like much at the moment, but that's it. There's a couple of options. One option is to tie at the top . And then this is the bit that goes over the back of your head. These bits at the sides kind of ruche up. I find it easiest to put this over the back of my head and then tie these kind of at the back of my head as well, a bit lower down. Another option, if you prefer, would be to have it going around your ears instead, in which case obviously you want to tie these pieces together. Just adjust them until they're nice and snug around the back of your ears. So that's another option for you. So there you go. I'm just going to unruche them for now so that I can get on with adding my monster details. So the main feature of my monster is going to be a great big toothy mouth, and depending on what fabrics you've got available, you can have some fun just choosing the colour that you want to work with. You might have some fabric which has patterns on it. whatever you've got is going to look pretty cool. So one really nice contrast, if you've got it available, is orange and blue. I wonder if you know why that's such a good contrast. I reckon quite a few of you do. The reason is that these two colours are on opposite sides of the colour wheel, so they are complete opposites, and that means that they create this kind of clash, which is a big contrast, makes it really fun to look at. Other examples of that would be green and red. I always think Christmas makes it easy to remember. Or yellow and purple, she says. Do I have purple and yellow available? You get the idea. So that's an option. But I'm kind of feeling like my monster might have some green going on. Love this bright lime green, so I think I'm going to go for that. It's still a really cool colour combination. So your monster mouth is pretty straightforward. Maybe start just by cutting down the fabric that you're using. I'm using felt for this. It comes in really fun colours, as you can see. And it's really easy to work with because it doesn't fray very much at the edges. And it's quite nice and thick. It's not too flimsy. So I really like working with felt. You could use anything really. You could even use something that does fray and have kind of frayed edges for your monster mouth. Why not? It might be part of the effect. Might give it a bit of extra texture. So that could be quite fun as well. Just work with what you've got basically. It's all good. I would go nice and big and bold. You can always cut things down, make them a little bit smaller if you need to. But just starting big works well. So I'm not going to trim too much off. And I'm just going to go for a sort of vague mouth shape. I don't know, it's a monster mouth. It doesn't have to be realistic, just a kind of a blob really, kind of a curved blob. It's going to look pretty good. So I don't need to draw it out or anything. You could draw it out if you want to, but as I say, you can't go too far wrong. There you go. That'll do. Doesn't look much like a mouth now, but it will do. You'll see. Might just trim it down a tiny bit. I said big and bold, but you know. Maybe not quite that big and bold. Yeah, it's kind of a weird shape. Looks a bit like Australia. I think it's going to work. So then I need a colour for the inside of the mouth. As I said before, red and green is an excellent colour contrast, so I think I'm going to go for a bit of that, a bit of this fabric for the inside of his mouth. I think I will draw around this actually. More or less, it doesn't. You can just do some rough marks. So my monster's going to have green lips and a kind of dark red inside of mouth. That's the plan. And I'm going to cut the inside shape slightly smaller, so I'm just going to go inside this line that I've done myself. always easiest, I find, to keep cutting in the same direction and turning your paper, or in this case your fabric, to get nice smooth lines and just to make it a bit easier on your hands. Oh, the seagulls are out in force again. Alright, so this is the inside of the mouth, this is the outside of the mouth, the lips. So I need to cut a hole, obviously. The easiest way to do that is just to fold over your felt. Maybe start with a small hole, and that way you can make it bigger. Doesn't quite look like lips yet. I would keep the lips quite wide though, at least a centimetre and a half. Because otherwise it's going to get very fiddly, and also you want it to be a nice kind of big bold effect. Let's have a look at that. Ah, yeah. Now we're talking. So what I'd recommend at this stage is to try on your mask. Remember, you've got the hem kind of going over the bridge of your nose, so at the top, and you're going to be ruching these bits down and up a little bit and adjusting your mask, making it comfy. And then see where you would like the mouth to fit, to be placed on your mask. It's probably a bit higher up than you'd expect, so you might kind of think, oh, it's the mouth, it's going to go way down here, but it's not, because your chin is going to be taking up this bit. This bit wants to kind of tuck under your chin a little bit to give you more protection. So you'll probably find that the mouth is going to be more in the centre than you'd expect. You want to be actually breathing through this section where there's the double fabric, because obviously that creates an extra layer of protection for you and for others around you. So that's a really good idea, because the t-shirt isn't so thick. What's good about the t-shirt is it's comfy, it breathes, it's nice and stretchy, so that's going to feel really nice on most of your face. And then this section where you're actually breathing is going to be that little bit thicker. So that's the idea. So when you try it on, you could, well, you probably should just tape them down where you think it needs to go. So that you can start stitching. I'd say it's going to be something like that. I'm going to go for a change in thread, why not? I've been using orange thread as a nice contrast to the blue, and now I'm going to use some dark green threads. So as well as kind of playing around with the colours of your bits of fabric, you can have fun with the colours of your thread. Just change it up a bit. This thread belonged to my granny, so it's quite ancient looking. You can see Dewhurst Silco 3 shells, silk substitute, there we go, machine 40 twist. Beautiful old reel of threads. This could be, how old could this be? Well, my granny was born in 1913. Goodness. So depending on when she started sewing and collecting her threads, goodness, this could be almost 100 years old. I kind of want to know now. I want to find out. Let's see what this thread is like. This ancient thread. Granny would be so pleased if she knew that it was getting some use and that I'd raided her sewing kit. Just a few months after she died, aged almost 100. She did very well. So there we go. So you could start anywhere really. If you do know some different stitches, a proper blanket stitch would be amazing, which is the stitch that goes, as the name suggests, that goes around the edge of blankets sometimes. It's kind of a more sophisticated version of what I'm doing here. But this is fine too, and you could also just do a running stitch like this all the way around. That would be slightly quicker actually. I may regret starting this one. I think it's going to look quite cool though. It is a very nice silky thread. So you want to just check that you're getting the inside bit involved as well. Not necessarily all of the time, but some of the time, so that it just stays in place. Do you know what? I'm getting impatient. I'm going to go back to a running stitch, but let's see what it looks like. Maybe mix it up. Maybe I could just do different stitches. I quite like the idea of the stitches being visible because they're kind of going to be visible anyway. So you may as well make it fun and make it purposeful, if that makes sense. So I quite like in art if anything threatens to look like a mistake or you know, an imperfection, then we can make it into something purposeful and actually make the art even better. So I'm just going a bit crazy with the stitching with the stitching now. But it's a monster, so you know, he wouldn't necessarily have like neat even stitches around his mouth. It's gone a bit Frankenstein, which I quite like. This was absolutely not part of the plan. But I like it. Tell you what, this ancient thread, is so much better than the new stuff, the modern stuff I was using a minute ago. It's like silky smooth, it's just gliding along. So there you go. Don't throw ancient reels of thread out if you find them, if you happen upon them. so I'm going to have to do it again. Okay. So remember, whenever you are casting off, finishing a section, go to the back so that it can't be seen, and you can, if I left enough space to do it, I might not have left enough. Yeah, alright, there we go. You can thread back through the loop to make a knot, and then it won't shift anywhere. Okay, just going to pick up where I left off. So you could start to have a think as you're finishing this section off about what you're going to put in the mouth. What do you think might look good in a monster's mouth? Don't need that anymore. Quite enjoying the effect of these stitches. It's a little bit like, I don't know, it's a bit like drawing, but drawing with thread. I'm not sure what I was going for there. I'm also finding that I have to keep kind of stretching the fabric out again because I have a tendency to pull a bit too hard on the thread, so just keep checking that you're not bunching them up too much. So that's that bit done. Excellent. Okay, so we've got our monster mouth, we've got our lips, got the inside of the mouth. It's looking pretty good, but obviously it needs something more. So we're going to put some teeth in here. I expect you guessed. And really, you can do this however you want. I'd recommend not doing teeny tiny teeth because they won't look so monstery, and also they'll be quite fiddly. So you can go quite big and bold again for the teeth. Maybe a nice kind of fang shape. Maybe your monster's lost most of his teeth and he's just got one left, bless him. Maybe he's got kind of goofy front teeth. Let's try that. Just going to give you a few different options. Kind of goofy front teeth, like a beaver or a rabbit. Quite like that actually. Maybe he's got two fangs. Maybe he's got fangs coming up from the bottom of his mouth. Maybe a bit smaller than that. I'm going to stick with the fang look because he is a monster, but I quite like the goofy teeth as well. I think I will put them in the bottom. Question is there then space for a tongue? Or do we need to have teeth coming out from all sides, from up and down? Maybe we do. Let's give that a go. It does mean a bit of extra stitching, but you know, could be worth it, eh? I think I'm going to go for the biggest fangs at the top and just some smaller ones at the bottom, but I'll try doing them as a line. Let's try that, because otherwise it's going to be too fiddly to have lots of small separate teeth. So maybe do 3. See, how does that look? So just trying lots of things out really. I recommend doing this before you stitch anything down and just being sure that you're happy with what you've got. I think I do prefer it like that actually. But see how you get on, see what you think. Now the only thing missing is a tongue. Ooh, I might go for an orange tongue. I was going to go red, but that stands out a bit more, doesn't it? So again, for your tongue you've got a few options. You can just have a sort of a normal tongue. Maybe put that little kind of dip in the middle of it. Something like that. You could have a tongue that kind of comes right out of the mouth. Let's try that. Sort of tuck it into the side of the mouth if you want. Could be quite fun. You could have a tongue that ends in a, you know, like in a fork, one of those forked tongues, like a snake tongue. Again, if you want to draw these shapes out, that might be a good way to go. I'm just going for it. But do try and keep them big, and you can always snip them down, otherwise it's going to get really fiddly. Quite like that. I've got my bits and pieces. I just need to stitch them in again. And I think I'll go back to the orange thread for this. I think I've done enough with this really dark thread. So as always, I'm going in from the back so that you won't be able to see the knot. She says. There we go. So again, I've got quite a nice contrast going on with the orange threads and the lime green felt. Oops. So what I'm not doing, as you'll notice, is stitching the teeth down onto the fabric at the back, because I really like the way that they kind of jet out. It's much more fun. Just going to go back to the green thread, because I'm about to stitch my orange tongue, and it could be quite fun to have some green on the orange. Kind of just lolling out the side of his mouth, I guess, like that. Yeah. All done. So there's just one thing to add, which is an optional really, because you could definitely leave it like this and it would look pretty cool. But there's another option, which is to add some eyes. Okay, and the obvious thing to use for eyes is buttons. So if you do have buttons, that would be amazing. You don't desperately need them. You could do just, again, some layers of fabric, just kind of, you know, come up with something a bit crazy like that. That would still look really cool. I'm going to use buttons. I quite like these guys actually. The other option is you don't have to have two eyes the same, of course. You can play around. You could have one massive eye and one tiny eye. Quite like that. You could have a button inside a button. So again, just play around and see what you think. Have some fun with it before you make your mind up. So many options. Another option is Cyclops. Just one eye. Decisions. I think I'm going to use these because that way I can actually show you like a standard button. The purple maybe? Oh, I quite like the purple. I think I might go with that. so funny how just the slightest thing like changes the whole character of it. So, you know, you could have the eyes close together at the top. It looks completely different, doesn't it? He's just got his own little personality. Can't find the hole. I'm going a bit carefully because the risk is that if you're not careful, you push through and you get the needle right up under your thumbnail, which is very painful, so be very careful if you're not so good at stitching maybe. Well, I guess hopefully you've managed to stitch this far, but you might have had some help and that's fine. In my granny's day, of course, I'd have been wearing a thimble, a little metal kind of, well, a thimble, a little metal thing over my thumb to protect me. Well, we don't really do that anymore. Maybe we should. Anyway, you can see what's happening. It's pretty straightforward. You just go in one hole and out another a few times to make it a bit stronger. So this is a useful life lesson to you if you've not done it before. Sewing on buttons, it's a good thing to learn. You know what's probably a lot easier, now that I think of it, is to poke the needle through, just that first time at least, and then pop your button on top. And then at least you've got started. Okay, that's probably more than enough. And there you go. Your crazy monster face mask. I feel like I want to name him now. And here's a couple of his friends. Her friends, I should say, maybe. Okay, let's push those over there. There we go. So much personality. Oh, I hope you have as much fun making these as I did. And let me know what you think.